Time is something we all experience every day. But have you ever wondered why? As we get older, time seems to speed up. One minute you're a child, and the next you're wondering where the last decade went. Is it just us? Or is time actually changing as we age? Today, we're diving into this question through the philosophy of time by one of the most influential philosophers of the 20th century, Henri Bergson. He had a unique way of thinking about time that still resonates today. So let's unravel Bergson's fascinating insights on why time feels faster with age, and how his philosophy can help us understand our experience of time better. Chapter 1. The Problem of Time. First, let's address the problem itself. Why do we feel like time speeds up the older we get? It's a common experience. When you're a child, a year feels like an eternity. But by the time you hit your 30s or 40s, those same 12 months seem to pass in the blink of an eye. This phenomenon isn't just in our heads, it's a psychological reality for many people. But why? Well, philosophers, psychologists, and scientists have tried to explain this for years. Some say it's simply a matter of routine. When you're young, every day is filled with new experiences. As you age, however, life becomes more predictable and repetitive. The newness of childhood fades away, and everything starts to blur together. But this doesn't explain the deeper existential experience of time. Chapter 2. Bergson's View of Time. La durée. Now let's turn to Henri Bergson, who provides us with a completely different and profound way to think about time. Bergson didn't see time as something that simply passed by in a mechanical, measurable way. Instead, he introduced the concept of la durée, which is French for duration. To Bergson, time wasn't just a series of moments ticking away on a clock. Bergson believed that time, or la durée, is a continuous flow, an experience of duration that is deeply subjective. It's how we live through time, not just how we measure it. Imagine time not as rigid, structured sequence of minutes and hours, but as something organic, something that flows and is experienced. For Bergson, time is not just quantitative, it is qualitative. In other words, it's not about counting seconds, but about how we feel and experience those moments. Chapter 3. The Mechanical View of Time versus Bergson's View. To help us understand Bergson's view, let's compare it with the traditional mechanical view of time that we're all familiar with, the kind of time that ticks away on a clock. This mechanical view of time treats time as something external, objective, and measurable. In other words, it's the time we see on our watches, the time we calculate when planning our day. But Bergson was critical of this way of thinking about time. For him, time wasn't a simple measure of how long something lasts. When you're caught up in the mechanical view of time, you lose the lived experience of it. It's as though you're a spectator watching time pass by, but you're not really immersed in it. Chapter 4. The Effect of Experience on Our Perception of Time. Bergson's ideas help explain why time seems to speed up as we age. As we grow older, we accumulate more experiences. Our lives become more filled with routines, and we start to lose that sense of novelty. When we're children, every experience is new, and every moment feels like it carries weight. But when we're older, the world starts to feel more familiar, and the experiences begin to blend into one another. Let's think about this for a moment. For a child, the world is full of firsts. First steps, first words, first friendships. Every new experience creates a vivid memory, a unique sensation of time. This sense of novelty stretches time out, but as we grow older, those firsts become fewer. The routine becomes more dominant, and we stop experiencing the world with that childlike wonder. Chapter 5. The Acceleration of Time. As we accumulate experiences, time feels like it accelerates. To Bergson, this happens because our perception of time is linked to the density of our experiences. The more experiences we have, the less space each individual moment occupies in our consciousness. Over time, we become so familiar with the world that we stop noticing it in the same vivid way. For example, when you think back to your childhood, a single summer might feel like it lasted forever because every single day was packed with new experiences. Fast forward to adulthood, and summers begin to feel shorter. Why? It's because as adults, we often fall into routines. Work, errands, and social obligations start to blend together in one big blur. Chapter 6: Time and Memory. The relationship between the two. Bergson also emphasized the close relationship between time and memory. For him, our memories are not just static records of the past, but they're an essential part of how we experience time. The more memories we accumulate, the more compressed and dense our perception of time becomes. When you're young, you don't have many memories yet, so each new moment is rich and distinct. But as you grow older, your memory becomes fuller, and individual moments get compressed. The accumulation of memories causes the experience of time to accelerate. It's like looking back at a book full of pages. The more pages you have, the harder it is to remember every single page in detail. Chapter 7: Understanding Bergson's Critique of Time as a Quantity. To understand Bergson more deeply, we have to look at his critique of how time is traditionally measured. Throughout history, humans have tried to define time as something quantitative: seconds, minutes, hours. Clocks and calendars are our tools to capture and measure time. Bergson, however, argued that this approach is incomplete and reductive. Bergson wasn't against measuring time in these ways. After all, we need schedules and appointments. But he was critical of the idea that time could be fully captured by numbers. In fact, he thought that our attempts to reduce time to units of measurement actually distorts our experience of it. Think of a moment in your life when you were deeply immersed in an activity. Perhaps a meaningful conversation, a creative project, or a cherished moment with someone you love. When you're fully engaged in such moments, time seems to stretch, and hours can pass in what feels like minutes. This is Bergson's lived experience of time. It's subjective, qualitative, and rich. This is where Bergson draws the line. The clock time, the ticking seconds, does not align with how we feel time. When we're caught in the external, mechanical view of time, we lose that richness. Our life becomes a blur, much like the feeling of time speeding up as we grow older. And that's the mistake we make when we think of time merely as a number. Chapter 8: The Concept of Pure Duration and the Role of Consciousness. Now, let's talk about one of the most critical aspects of Bergson's philosophy: the idea of pure duration. This is what Bergson believes is the true essence of time, the internal experience of time as it unfolds in consciousness. Pure duration is the flow of time that happens in our minds, not the rigid external ticking of the clock. Pure duration, or la durée pure, is a dynamic, unpredictable experience. It isn't composed of distinct, separable moments. Instead, it's a continuous, interwoven flow where past, present, and future blend together in the mind. Think about your dreams. When you dream, time doesn't seem to follow the logical sequence of clock time. You can experience years of events in what feels like moments, or a few minutes in the dream world can seem to stretch into hours. This is Bergson's notion of pure duration. It's not something we can measure, but it's the way we truly live time. And the fascinating part? According to Bergson, this pure duration is deeply tied to our consciousness. It's our awareness, our ability to reflect and make meaning of our experiences. That gives time its richness. Time doesn't feel fast when we're present and reflective. It feels slow and expansive. But as we age, when we stop noticing the moments, time slips by more quickly. Chapter 9: How Technology and Modern Life Influence Our Perception of Time. Now, if we take a step back and think about today's world, we can see how modern technology and our fast-paced lives exacerbate this feeling of time speeding up. Our constant connection to digital devices, endless notifications, and the pressure to always be on forces us into an almost perpetual state of urgency. In a way, our external environment has started to shape our internal perception of time. We're constantly distracted, constantly moving from one task to the next, with little opportunity to be fully present. This constant busyness creates a sense of time being compressed. We're not experiencing it in a meaningful way. Instead, we're merely tracking it. For Bergson, this external pressure of modern life is just another example of how we lose touch with our lived experience of time. As we're more preoccupied with schedules, appointments, and deadlines, we start to feel that time is slipping away without ever really enjoying it. Chapter 10. Reclaiming Time. Living in the Moment. So, how can we reclaim a richer experience of our time in our own lives? Well, Bergson's philosophy points us toward a path of mindful living, a way to re-engage with time that isn't about rushing, measuring, or worrying about the next thing. Bergson encourages us to slow down and embrace the flow of time, rather than constantly trying to control or measure it. Instead of constantly worrying about the future or looking back at the past, we should focus on the present moment, fully engaging with the experiences and people around us. Doing so gives us back the sense of time as something vivid, rich, and alive. By focusing on quality over quantity in our experiences, we start to break the cycle of repetitive, mundane living. This means intentionally engaging with activities that challenge us, stimulate our senses, and bring a sense of novelty in our lives. Chapter 11. Time, Aging, and Finding Meaning. As we age, we might feel like time is slipping away from us, but Bergson's philosophy reminds us that it's never too late to change our relationship with time. Aging doesn't have to mean that we lose the richness of life. We can still create meaningful experiences no matter where we are in life. In fact, embracing change and stepping out of our comfort zones can help us make time feel more expansive. Instead of focusing on time as something running out, we can think of time as something we can fill with meaningful, new experiences, no matter our age. Chapter 12. How Bergson's philosophy can change the way we live. So, if Bergson is right, how can we use his ideas to change how we experience time of our own lives? One key takeaway from Bergson's philosophy is that time is not something we passively experience. It's something we actively engage with. Instead of merely measuring time, we can focus on enriching our experience of it by embracing the present moment, by introducing new experiences into our lives. By engaging with the world more consciously, we can slow down the acceleration of time. Bergson would suggest that we try to live more fully in the present, focusing on the richness of each moment rather than simply counting down the hours. This is how we can reclaim the sense of fullness that childhood once gave us. So, why does time feel faster as we age? According to Henri Bergson, it's all about the way we experience time. Time isn't just something that passes, it's something we live through. And as we accumulate experiences, time starts to feel faster. But we can slow it down by seeking out new experiences and fully immersing ourselves in the present moment. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into Bergson's philosophy of time, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time, where we'll explore more fascinating ideas from the world of philosophy.